It always feels good to be holding a carp, especially at this time of year. It's been a tricky session, to be honest. I've had to play around with a few things, but as soon as I put zigs out in the lake, the bites have been coming thick and fast. On this short video, I'm going to run through everything that I consider when it comes to casting out a zig. A lot of people overlook this method, but trust me, when you get it right, bites can come thick and fast. Right, let's get this one put back, and you never know, there's still time for another bite or two. If you haven't heard of zig fishing before, you're probably watching this thinking, what on earth is a zig rig? Essentially, a zig is a method used by carp anglers to catch carp which are swimming around mid-water. A lot of people believe that carp spend 100% of the time down on the lake bed feeding, whether that be on naturals, boilies, particle, but trust me, that is complete waffle. I personally believe carp spend around 80 to 90% of the time cruising around, not feeding. However, putting a zig in front of a carp is the perfect way to try and catch one when they're doing this. Which are the kinds of venues where I'd look to use a zig? Now, hand on heart, I believe zigs will work anywhere in the world, and the reason for that is the carp which I've caught here today on this lake have the same behaviour and natural patterns as the carp in the lake across the road. They'll also have the same behaviour patterns as the ones down at Linear, Bluebell, Berners Hall, the ones out in France, and the ones on the other side of the world. Carp are carp at the end of the day, and if you excuse me, I've just got to reel this carp in on a zig. But yeah, like I was saying, carp in this lake compared to the other lakes around the world, they all have the same behaviour patterns, and because of that, I believe zigs will work absolutely anywhere. They spend a lot of time cruising around, and if you can put a zig in front of a face, well yeah, they absolutely love it. Saying that though, I do believe there's lakes out there where zigs become more effective compared to other lakes. These lakes tend to be deeper lakes where the average depth is 20, 30, 40 foot in depth. And the reason why I believe zigs become more effective there is there's so much water where the carp could be potentially suspended in the water. However, if you're fishing a shallower lake, 2, 3 foot in depth, if you've got a hook bait on the deck and the carp are swimming around mid-water, all they have to do is dip down 18 inches to pick up your rig. Whereas if you're fishing in 30 foot and the carp is suspended 20 foot off the lake bed, there's no way on this planet the carp are going to swim down to pick up your hook bait. Right, I'm going to shut up now and land this carp. But essentially what I was trying to get there is a zigs will work anywhere. But deeper lakes are certainly an area where I'd consider using zigs more. Oh, this one's walking up. Silly carp. There she goes. Bye-bye, Mr. Carp. See you soon. You've turned up to the lake and you've decided you're going to give a zig fishing a go. It's 20 foot in front of your swim, so how on earth are you meant to know where the fish are going to be suspended in that water? When I'm turning up to a lake and I'm going to be casting out zigs, I'll make sure first of all to put all 3 rods out on zigs, and the reason for this is I can then put 3 different depths and colours on each rod. Just like fishing on the bottom, you can put out a pink pop-up one day and it'll work, and you can put it out the next day and not get a sniff. So it is trial and error. Again, you've got to play around, but the basic rule of thumb that I like to follow is if I'm fishing a gin clear lake, I'll use a dark hook bait, maybe a black bit of foam or a brown Scopex squid pop-up. However, if I'm fishing somewhere where the water is coloured, that's when I'll look to use quite vibrant coloured hook bait. That might be a red zig screw with a red bit of foam, a yellow bit of foam, or a high attract hook bait, something that's going to get the carp's attention and get inquisitive and come in and take a snatch at the zig. One factor that might make me want to put out a dark coloured zig in coloured water is if the carp are right near the surface. Now, from past experience, I've just found if I put a yellow or red zig out there just below the surface, it never does me any good. There's no real scientific explanation behind this, but I personally believe it's the way that the sun penetrates through the water. I just feel that when the light goes through the water and it's reflecting off the yellow, white, orange, red, whatever colour hook bait it is just below the surface, I feel it makes it too vibrant and it sort of screams a little bit of danger to the carp. Like I said, there's no explanation behind this. You might end up fishing a lake, putting out a zig just below the surface on a yellow bit of foam, and it might work for you, but from past experience, that hasn't worked and soon as I've changed to a darker coloured hook bait, I've been able to get the bites. Also, when the carp are cruising around taking mixes on the surface, if you put a 12mm Scorpic squid pop-up out there or an imitation dog biscuit, that can also have some great results when fishing zigs. The conditions and weather can also have a huge impact on the success when it comes to using zigs. The two factors of the weather which I believe affect the carp the most are the temperatures and the air pressure. This does kind of change lake to lake, but normally when it's warm, temperatures of 25 to 30 degrees, the carp are going to be cruising just below the surface, and that's when I'd look to use zigs right up near the surface film. And the other factor is air pressure. It's no secret, when you've got super low air pressure, the carp will love to feed on the deck, but when the air pressure is high, above 1010 onwards, that's when the carp tend to spend a lot more time cruising around mid-water. I'm not really a fish scientist, to be honest, but I believe it's something to do with the swim bladder. I might be completely wrong there, but what I do know is when the air pressure is high, get them zigs out, as that can be a fantastic time to catch them on the zigs. When it comes to zig fishing, bite indication is one of the most important things to take care of, and there's 3 things that I like to do to ensure that I've got great indication on the bank. And the first one is to do with the R4 alarm. I make sure to put my bite alarm on its most sensitive setting. And the reason for this is, some of the bites on zigs can be super finicky and you'll only get a bleep or 2. And if I wasn't on the more sensitive setting, potentially the bobbin would have to move 10-15 centimetres before I get a bleep, and by that time the carp spat the hook and it swam off. So make sure that you've got your bite alarm on its most sensitive setting. The second thing that I like to do is fish with a nice big heavy bobbin. From past experience, I've found with smaller bobbins you don't tend to get great indication. With these bobbins, they're nice and heavy, but also they clip onto the main line. With standard bobbins where they're running up and down the line, yes, you get indication, but not as good as when they clip onto the line. And the final thing that I like to do is fish with a bowstring tight line. The reason for this is, as soon as that lead moves, I'm going to get an indication on the bite alarm. And to help me tighten up that line even further, I like to use a nice big heavy 4 or even 5 ounce lead. If I was to use a 1 or a 2 ounce lead, when I'm tightening down the reel and getting that line nice and tight, that lead's just going to constantly skip across the lake bed and you're not going to be able to get the line bowstring tight. Another advantage of using a 4 or a 5 ounce lead is I find these drop off the lead clip much easier compared to lighter leads. And trust me, you want to drop the lead. There's nothing worse than having a big carp on the net than having a 12-foot hook length and a lead bouncing on the lead clip, because trust me, you end up either losing the fish or you just get frustrated, so make sure that you drop the lead. And here she is, the star of the show, the famous zig rig. And what I'm going to do now is run through step by step exactly how I like to tie a zig rig. Now, before I start doing this, it's really important to note that this rig is connected onto a lead clip. When you're zig fishing, you always want to be using a lead clip. If you use something like a helicopter, trust me, you will just end up with a massive tangle. Also with the lead clip, it's important when you're zig fishing that you're dropping the lead, and by using a lead clip it keeps things nice and simple, and also you're able to drop the lead. Right, let's run through step by step how I like to tie the zig. When you're tying the zig, you're going to need the following components: zig flow hook link, floater claw hooks, zig screws, your hook bait of choice, XL anti-tangle slaves, scissors and a knot puller. To start tying the rig, you'll need to measure off your desired length of zig flow hook link. On this demonstration, I'm going to be using a 5-foot zig, so all I'm going to do is measure off 5 foot, but also leave around 6 inches, as this will allow for the line which you're going to be using when tying on the hook and tying a loop in the end of the zig. Next, I'll take a zig screw and slide this onto the hook length. Then I'll take a hook out of the packet and attach this onto the end of the hook link by using a Palomar knot. Next, I'll slide the zig screw onto the hook and make sure that the screw is directly parallel to the point. Once the zig screw is on the hook, it's then time to attach a chosen hook bait. On this demonstration I'm using foam, however you can use any form of buoyant bait. Next, take an XL anti-tangle sleeve out of the packet. Before I slide this onto the hook length, I like to create around a 0.5 centimetre slit on the anti-tangle sleeve using the scissors. And the reason for this is, I find that you can push the anti-tangle sleeve right up against the leg clip and create quite an aggressive angle on the anti-tangle sleeve. Slide this onto the main line and finish off the rig by forming a figure-of-8 loop in the end. This loop will be used to attach onto the quick change swivel on your lead system. And that's how to tie a zig rig and all my thoughts surrounding zig fishing. I hope this video you've been able to learn a thing or two and it inspires you to get out on the bank and give zig fishing a go. A lot of people believe that it's just an early spring or summer tactic, but trust me, it works 365 days of the year. But unfortunately for me, it's time to reel in, pack up and go home. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you on the bank sometime.